Welcome to the Garden and Glass podcast presented by the Hope Farm. I'm your host, Bentley Evans. This is episode 1, and what we wanted to do here is try to explain the Hope Farm concept and the various aspects that make it unique. My first guest on the podcast is my business mentor, my business partner, my dad, Robert Evans. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you to be here for us to kind of talk about kind of the origination of this whole thing and kind of how it started. So I guess, I'll kind of let you kind of start and give your explanation of kind of how we found ourselves with the Hope Farm.
Yeah. Well, it's a very convoluted story. It did not start out to be what it became. And obviously, a lot of it had to do with you and what you wanted to do in your life, and me trying to do my part as a dad to make that happen.
Yeah. When I know that I moved back from Auburn in 2017 and kind of wanted to switch up careers a little bit. I wasn't super happy doing medical sales, but it was a great job. I learned a lot from it, but I kind of wanted to do something that I was a little bit more passionate about. And so I know I remember kind of coming to you and kind of pitching the idea that I kind of wanted to jump into something that was more farming. I'd kind of gotten into it in Auburn, kind of the homesteading lifestyle, was growing a lot of vegetables and leafy greens and things, and wanted to find a way to turn that passion into a job. And I know that's when you started doing your research that you're famous for. You'll dive into it and learn everything about it. And we kind of came across the hydroponics and shipping containers, and they were doing that in New York City and in the various places, and it was kind of a viable concept.
Yeah, urban farming was something that is really foreign to our community because we're like the largest farming community in the entire state, and here we are going to urban farm in places where you shouldn't have to.
Right.
For what we're doing. But it was the basis for this. It was the basis for us to start out and build upon. But farming is farming, and the margins are not the best in the world, and you really got to have some great distribution. So as we got into that and started looking at how to make it a viable business, it became obvious that we needed to do some things here to supplement it, to kind of expand our revenue centers and things like that.
Right.
And that's when we decided we'd put a little 1,800 square foot wine bar on the front of the property and see if we couldn't, get some people to come in and hang out and give them some tours and show them how hydroponics work and educate them. And that's the initial story. But 6,500 square feet later, we are in a completely different environment.
Yeah. So. It started very small and contained. And as we grew, we kind of, started taking inspirations from various places, figuring that we could do this and that, and it kind of morphed. And I know adding the various people that we did and their specific talents and stuff also helped that process.
Yeah. Well, we had just moved over here ourselves about a year before you moved back. Mm-hmm. And for us, I'm at a different stage in my life where I was slowing down with all my business being pretty much everywhere except for local. Right. I really wanted to do something that got back to dealing with the local community that we were going to be in. So we moved over from Mobile to here. You moved back, and the whole farming concept really appealed because how much local can you get if you're not, you're growing and you're selling to other restaurants and things like that in the area. Right. And but anyway, I do know that our plan from the beginning has morphed dramatically, and ultimately we became our biggest client.
Right.
For what we're growing, and our farming went down to being a piece of what we're about. I was very surprised moving to Fairhope with all the great coastal areas, how few areas there were that provided outdoor space for you to hang out and enjoy. And so for us, that was one of the things, is how do we create some outdoor space? Also, we have the Grand Hotel, has beautiful outdoor space right on the water, but there's only so much of that you can buy. Right. So we have to create it and create an environment that draws people in, makes them feel like they're not necessarily sitting in somebody's backyard, but they are sitting someplace they're enjoying themselves. So
right. Yeah, as this thing kind of grew, we kind of deemed it the gathering place concept. So it had, you got your farm, your wine bar, your cocktail bar, your events and entertainment venue, and a full-fledged restaurant.
But if you go back, you remember food was probably the fifth thing on our list, and it was not our main product.
Right.
It was something we knew we had to have that was elevated and it was really good to complement, I guess, everything else that we were doing. And so I think that it was important. The food was very important, but our initial thing was to create a gathering place. People come hang out, enjoy, listen to music, have great drinks, socialize. And that concept is what we started building with. September of 2019 is when the construction began. And everything was really good.
Right.
Till COVID.
Right.
And COVID really impacted the entire social gathering piece of what we did. Mm-hmm. And so when we did open, we had to, again, adapt to the new environment, and food became a big piece of what we did. Instead of the fifth, now it was the first.
Right.
And people were really wanting to get back out, to have good meals, to go places that they felt like they were being taken care of. And they've been, locked up for 90 days or 120 days and taking care of themselves. And so it was nice to have people wait on you.
Right.
And so we became much more of a restaurant than we wanted. Those of you that have been by our place will know that there's a section we call the hall on one side of the building, and that is originally was going to be a very community-driven space, just open seating where you could walk in, just sit down any day of the week and meet somebody sitting next to you and engage them. And COVID kind of crushed that for us. And so we adapted, just like many other businesses did. And anyway, we are now really known for being a restaurant.
Right.
We're known for being an entertainment venue, but I don't think we lost the core of what we were trying to go after. I think that we still, for instance, only do one reservation a night. That's a big part of what we decided upon, was to make sure that people didn't feel like they had to get up and leave. If they left after 45 minutes or if they left after 4 hours, that was completely their call.
Right.
And so we're trying to hold on to that, hoping that the COVID, the whole atmosphere will change. And I don't know that we'll ever get back to exactly what we had before that, but I think that we're trying to provide a really great space for people to come and get about as much of that as they can.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I think with that transition into that kind of the full-fledged restaurant, it actually, the farm was at the center of it in the very beginning, and I think the restaurant aspect of it kind of kept it there. Obviously, we're growing, 100 pounds of mushrooms a week that we utilize, all various herbs, leafy greens, things specifically for our menu. Like you said, we became our biggest client on the farm, and now anything we have kind of extra, we hit up some local chefs and whatnot. But I think it all worked out.
Well, we were intentional. A little bit of the Hope Farm name, which was attributed to you, was all about the hope for a sustainable future.
Right.
And that means more than just recycling. We planted the entire property with pretty much as many edible plants as we could cram in here that would also give the beauty and the look that people wanted. And I think we were very successful. We had a wonderful contractor that helped us with that. Maybe we'll have him on one of our podcasts and let him talk about that. I think he'd be a really good one to get in here.
Yeah, that's season 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I was actually in Napa, and we went on a secret garden tour. It was part of Hill Family Estates, and it was kind of a secret garden that was tucked in the middle of this vineyard, and it had all sorts of just crazy flowers, herbs, vegetables, fruits that they were growing. And the local chefs there would come in, and they would kind of on the honor system, they would pick the various things that they needed for that night, write it down on a piece of paper, and then kind of bring it back and create something. And this was in Yountville, California, so it's the home of the French Laundry. And so Thomas Keller was one of those chefs. And anyways, I just became very inspired by that whole process, and I wanted to bring back as many of those things that could grow in southern Alabama as possible. Obviously, the climate is not the same here, so but we did our best, and we also kind of supplemented with things that do grow well here. And I think that's something that really makes us a fun spot.
That's where the hydroponics kick in too. Right. Allows us to grow a lot of things 365 days out of the year. We control the entire environment. It's very self-serving. Mm-hmm. We can be very specific about not just the menu that we currently have, but the menu that we're planning. And I mean, again, you do all the farming, so you kind of know. Right.
Yeah. And for the people that haven't been here yet, one thing that we wanted to be sure to do is kind of create an environment that anyone could feel welcomed in. But we also wanted to keep that elevated service. So it's a high-end service with kind of a relaxed atmosphere. And that was something that was super important to us, and that kind of carries through to our employees and kind of how we wanted to create that culture within the Hope Farm of somewhere that maybe is not your typical restaurant industry culture or culture of any business, really. We wanted just kind of one where people were empowered. Everyone felt like they had a voice or feels like they have a voice. And I think that kind of that whole mentality is really kind of what makes it feel special here.
Well, and we are different when it comes to our management style. We're not chefs who have decided to open a restaurant. We're not restaurateurs. Well, we are now, but we were not in the past. And so for us, it wasn't about us bringing some menu or some skill cooking together. It was more about building a culinary team. And so we try to apply the team concept to just about everything we do. The kitchen. Yes, we have an executive chef. Yes, we have executive sous chefs. We have everyone, in every position. But at the same time, we try to empower them to be part of the menu that we put out, be part of the solution, be part of the guest experience whenever we can. And and then our front of house, of course, they're the same mentality. We try to spread out everything so it's not just one general manager making a decision or one bartender making a decision. I think that's part of our appeal to a lot of people, is that we do have a broad range of things we bring to the table. We're not for everyone. Right. I'm sure there are people that, we're not for, our style's not that way. But our culture is something that we're proud of, and we're going to keep building it that way because that's what fits us, and that's what we want to be known for with our employees.
Right, it's an environment we'd want to work in. So yeah, that was super important, and that's something that we agreed upon from the very beginning, which is in the start of this.
One of the very few things we agreed upon in the very beginning.
We had some heated conversations. Obviously, the father-son dynamic is an interesting one, especially when we both have strong opinions and feel like both of our opinions are right all the time. Mm-hmm. But we had some good mediators in my wife and mom. And
is that what we're calling them?
Yeah.
Mediators?
Okay. Yeah, mediators. Well, I guess they were really on my side a lot of the time, but
most of the time. Yeah, of course. That's the way it works.
But it has been a fun process to be able to, work with your dad and, get the business insight and the business, side of things from you and kind of learn, kind of how you do things. Obviously, you've been in business for yourself basically your entire life. You've been an entrepreneur from the very beginning, and that's something that's super appealing to me, and trying to figure out kind of how to do it, how to make that work. And you've seemed to be pretty successful with it. So it's been fun to learn from you through this process.
Well, there's learning on both sides. Yeah. It's an interesting, I know that people have done this with a child, son or daughter probably have realized this already, but it's just there's this realization one day that they have, that you're not the dumb old guy that, has been telling them things. And then there's this realization that you have that they're not just some, young kid who doesn't know anything. And you have to find that middle ground in there. And that's been key to getting to where we are. And right. It was complicated by all the various struggles that we had to go through with the COVID and with personnel and things that we would hope to have had to not had to make such decisions or such hard decisions in the very beginning. But right. Again, that's life, and that's what you adapt to. Whenever something's thrown at you, you just keep moving the best you can. So.
Yeah, I learned well through that process, and kind of, we were involved in the whole construction aspect of this thing from the very beginning. And so us being so involved in that process, obviously we were making decisions on the fly, and they were aesthetic decisions a lot of the times. And so obviously our tastes differed a little bit, but that's where Mom and Janie came into play. But it was a learning experience. But I think now, as we've gone through this, and we have about a year and a half under our belt now, that you and I have definitely morphed as well and become better partners, and have communicated a lot better through the process.
I think we found our lanes,
for sure,
which is the important piece. And we had a great contractor who worked with us on this. He recognized, I believe, our ignorance, for lack of a better word, and
sure.
a lot of the process and things like that, but was super good at taking care of guiding us and directing us. And not only that, he got the fact that we wanted it to be an elevated experience.
Right.
So between him and our decorator, which, by the way, I think all those would be great people to have on here one time or another. Again, season two,
yeah.
But I think it would be really, really good. But they picked up on what we were trying to do, and that was just create an elevated experience. You don't have experience in the kitchen, but you have experience as guests traveling around the world. One thing you want to do when you come back home is you don't want to feel like you can't go get that same experience down the street.
Right.
And so that went into a lot of decisions we made on whether we spend the money here or not spend the money. And in most cases, we chose to spend the money because it was ultimately, this is not a 2 or 3 year deal for us. This is a long-term plan. It's
right.
a long-term investment, and there's going to be continued growth for us and what we're doing. And the Hope Farm concept is not just going to be in Fairhope only. There's plans for more that we'll detail as we go along.
Right.
And
but yeah, so speaking about growth, obviously we can kind of talk a little bit about the growth on the property that we're getting into here with the barn on the backside. Originally, that was another space that we had potential for venue and rental space for special events and various things, and now we've kind of decided that a kitchen, an extra kitchen back there for all the special events and things that we're doing, was something that was going to be super necessary. So you can kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't finish. That's probably the one place on the property we didn't finish during construction. We weren't sure what COVID was going to cause us to do, but we had to pivot. Then there was this building that we could build out and do something different if the restaurant was not going to be usable at the time. And but now we're feeling more comfortable, especially here in South Alabama. We're feeling much more comfortable. And so the architect has been working with us. We're building out a full kitchen in the back there that'll allow us to really take on the events that we are booking and that we're servicing,
right,
and hosting. It's a lot to put on our one kitchen. We didn't, again, if you remember the very first part of this, when we started talking, food was fifth on our list. So our kitchen was designed to be for a much smaller food service.
Right.
And now that we have become what we have, having that second kitchen would be just huge. It'll make our service better. It'll make our products better. It'll make our team more efficient. So that is going to start at the first of the year. And if everything goes right and the city is nice to us, we ought to be good to go.
Shout out.
Shout out to the city of Fairhope.
Yeah, if you're listening. But yeah, so, all right. So, we mentioned the gathering place concept, and I kind of wanted to dive into the various aspects of that a little further. It kind of explains kind of how we came about, kind of what we gathered together to create a space that we could, that was fun for people to come and hang out for a while.
Yeah, I think that, our first and foremost, we started out wanting to have a cocktail bar and a wine bar, those two things. And not just a place where someone could come to a bar and order a drink, but actually some really high-end elevated drinks that were utilizing as many of the components that we grow here on the farm as we could. And that way, not only are people getting this freshness, they're getting a piece of our farm, but they're getting an elevated cocktail. And I think we've accomplished that. We got really great bartenders who've done a super job. They keep the drinks fresh going forward.
Yep.
Our wine program, you know, a lot of people are not aware, but we did bring in a consultant in the beginning. Nadia
Yep.
was
Pavlovsky.
Pavlovska. Yeah, there we go. Nadia, who I'm sure she will listen to this and wonder why I just butchered her name, but it's because we haven't seen her in a few months now. Yeah. But she, out of California, never been to the South in her entire life. We brought her in and we took her just about to every place in Mobile and Baldwin County we could think of, and we wanted her to look at all their wine programs. And it wasn't to say it was good or bad. We just wanted ours to be elevated. We wanted it to be the best of the best that she saw.
And to enhance.
And enhance upon those. I know there's some good ones around, and we just wanted to make sure we didn't jump into the wine scene and not be a positive influence on it in the area. Right. And so she really helped that. And then when Will came in, which I know you're going to have on your second podcast, Will was just a plethora of information and really is passionate about it. And so he took what we were working with Nadia and took it to the next level. And then entertainment, you know, people here love the fact that they can go out on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, and be able to listen to live music and something that they can relax and eat and drink and socialize with. And so that was another key component for us, was to bring that piece here, and that would cause the gathering. That was our reason. You know, you can't just go sit around and over one drink and have a good time with your friends. But if you've got music and you've got a great environment that you're sitting in, and then the last thing there was you added some really great food.
Right.
And again, that's why our menu originally was really heavily on the small plates, so that people could order 5 or 6 items and just sit there and nibble and talk to each other. And we've morphed our menu to try to adapt to what the community's asking for, especially since we become more of a restaurant than we had originally planned. Right. And so our menu adapts to that. But also, just keeping in mind, our menu does, you know, we're very seasonal with that. We make changes. Sometimes it's as the season changes, sometimes it's in the middle of the season. It just depends on what we feel like we can do to
keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh for our guests, right? Yeah. And then of course we have venue space. You know, venue. We have had so many people who, especially during this event, where we have not been doing a lot of our own events right now. A lot of our wine tastings and a lot of those things we held off on just because of the COVID environment. We didn't want to invite 100 people in and maybe expose all them. But we have been able to rent the facility out, and people are having lots of different sizes of parties. Everything from our back 40 through the pavilion. Those of you that don't know what the back 40 is, that is the back 40 feet, not 40 acres, here at the Hope Farm. And it's where we have a second bar that we open on certain nights of the week. It's also where we have our raised beds and our hydroponic container, our mushroom container. And it's really just a fun, focused area for people to go and enjoy drinks and sometimes wait on tables inside. And but anyway, that's kind of the whole thing, was creating spaces for people to be able to go sit and hang out and enjoy one another, and then not feel like they're rushed to leave.
Right.
And I know when I'm out with a group of people and you're having a good time, you really don't want the party to end. You want to sit there and keep enjoying it, and hopefully we've created an environment where people want to stay.
The Garden to Glass cocktail for this episode is the Tarra-Gone, because the spirit we're using is tequila. So basically what I did is I took 0.5 ounces of vanilla syrup, and I muddled some strawberries, a twig of tarragon, and the vanilla syrup together. And then I added tequila, lemon juice, cocchi americano, and I added some ice, shook it up, strained it through a thin strainer into a julep tin, and then added some soda water and some crushed ice and slapped a little tarragon cocktail to make alone. Obviously, I can't take credit for this one. Our general manager, Will, came up with it and sent it to me, and it's pretty tasty and refreshing.
It's good.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
But yeah, so, obviously we've wanted to kind of do things differently. And this is kind of the podcast I thought was a fun way to do that, and kind of jump into, obviously, like I said before, the various aspects that kind of make us, what we are. And I thought this was, a fun thing to do. So what we have planned is this season 1 is kind of going to be all about the Hope Farm. And obviously it starts with us, and then kind of it's going to go like chronologically kind of with how we've morphed. Obviously we became a wine bar second, and then it kind of jumped into the cocktails, and then the food side kind of came last. And so that's kind of the sequence we're going to have. My next podcast, or episode 2, is going to be with Will Jones, our wine director and general manager. And we're going to talk about all things wine and kind of what makes the Hope Farm wine program super unique and kind of stand out from the rest of the area, or enhance kind of the culture of the area, I guess is a better term. But so I'm excited for that. So anyhow, I appreciate you being on this with me, Dad. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited for, the future.
Well, I'm interested in seeing all of them and getting a chance to hear how our people,
Right.
represent and discuss what we do. I think we've got a really good team, and I think they'll really take our story and build upon it. It's really fun when you walk around the property during service and you hear an employee telling your story to the guest.
Right.
And they tell it so well. And that just means we've done a good job on that. And that's, you need to be proud of yourself for that.
Yeah, it's a testament to them as well. So anyways, I love you, man. Appreciate you being on this.
Take care.
Cheers, man.